it's Hillary Jubilee. If you're new, I talk about manifestation, conscious creation, and the law of assumption here. If you're interested in those topics, please click the like button down below and the subscribe button, and let's get right into the video. Today's video is about limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is any belief that is holding you back from getting what you want. It's a belief that is limiting you. So it's a belief that doesn't move you forward. It's on the contrary, it's holding you back. So anything that starts with, I can't do, be, or have blank, or if you're saying it to somebody else, you can't do, be, or have whatever, that's a limiting belief. You are God of your reality. You can do, be, or have anything you want. If you put your mind to it, you can have anything you want. So if someone's telling you you can't do something, they're you pushed out. So everyone is you pushed out. They're just reflecting your own limiting beliefs or fears back onto you. I would take what other people say with a grain of salt, especially if it's a limiting belief that they're projecting onto you. It's just your own limiting beliefs and fears being reflected back to you, or it's an assumption you have of that person that they have that certain belief. And all of that is malleable because you are the operant power of your reality. And if you assume a new state of somebody, or if you choose to, limiting beliefs are actually changeable as well, because a belief is just a thought you continue to think. So you can, and you are in charge of your thoughts because you are the operant power. So you can tell your subconscious mind when you hear a limiting belief coming up in your mind, thanks, but no thanks, I'm in charge now, and this is the new belief that we're gonna instill. And you just keep replacing the new belief with the old. You keep replacing the old limiting belief with your new preferred belief that serves you. And that's the way that you change a limiting belief, is basically just by repetition, repeating the new story or new belief until it hardens into fact, or until it becomes an assumption in your brain that you don't need to work to change anymore, because you've repeated it so many times that now it's hardened into fact in your reality. So I'll give a few examples of some limiting beliefs, and an example in my life where there was a limiting belief that was obviously everyone is me pushed out. So it's a limiting belief that I had that kept getting reflected back to me to others. So I'll give an example, some general examples, and then one example in my life. So I think this is a Sex in the City example. I believe it is. I'm like, is this a Victoria, the city I live in example? I think there's some similarities between the two, but I think it's a Sex in the City example where they say all men are either gay or taken. All the good men are either gay or taken. I think they say that in Sex in the City. I haven't watched Sex in the City in a while, but I'm pretty sure that was one of the lines that came from that movie. Oh, the good men are all either gay or taken. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like Carrie says that or something. So that's a limiting belief. It's just not true. You create with your thoughts. So if you have that belief that all good men are gay or taken, that will be true in your reality, and that does not serve you. So that's a limiting belief. You want to change your beliefs so that they allow you to get what you want. So there's a similarity between that belief, that limiting belief in Sex in the City, and the there's a limiting belief here in Victoria as well, that the dating pool is like small, or there's not that many good guys in Victoria, or like with the dating apps, it would be like, oh, because Victoria, that the city that I live in, it's not a very big city compared to Vancouver. So like, I would talk to people who were on the dating scene when we would go into Vancouver and be on Tinder or whatever dating app, the options are just endless, and like the people never end on there. And it's just like the dating pool is so large, there's so much to choose from. And then when you're here in Victoria and you're on Tinder or whatever dating app, you can get through all of them, and like it'll like end, and there won't be obviously you put certain age ranges and like specifics that you want, so you can play around with that, but I digress. But yeah, there's a limiting belief here in Victoria where the dating pool sucks, or like it's difficult to date in Victoria or whatever. That's another limiting belief. So still on the topic of like dating. When I went vegan, I've been vegan 3 years now, and there's an assumption or limiting belief in the vegan community that the dating pool is small and it's hard to find a good man who's vegan, or a good partner. Man, woman, doesn't matter. I mean, the assumption in the vegan community is that there are more vegan females than vegan males. So whatever your sexual preference is, it doesn't matter. But yeah, the assumption was that there's a shortage of vegan men, not just in the city I live in, but in general. That's an assumption in the vegan community, that there aren't a ton of men that are vegan. And myself, I consider myself an animal rights activist. So, and then that makes the pool even smaller. This is a limiting belief, so making that clear. That makes the pool even smaller when you're an animal rights activist. You're less inclined. It's not all of us, but you'd be less inclined to date somebody who wasn't vegan, because if you're an animal rights activist, you're pretty hardcore in your beliefs with veganism and animal rights. So you would be less inclined to date somebody who was not vegan. So long story short, you understand, like, the limiting belief is that in Victoria already the dating pool is too small and there's not a lot of good men in Victoria. That's a limiting belief. It's not true. And then on top of that, now I've gone vegan. So people in my life, people close to me in my life would be like, well, are you going to date someone who's not vegan? Because otherwise your choices are pretty slim. You're not going to be able to find everything you want in one person. Your choices are even more slim now. Like, this is everyone's you pushed out. So this is my own fears being reflected back. So it's a limiting belief that, I won't be able to find, I'll have to make some sort of sacrifice in a partner because I'm vegan, and because I was being told that it was too much to ask to have my partner be vegan. So basically people close to me would say, well, you'll never find everything you want in a partner who is also vegan. Like, that's just not going to happen. It was like, I will need to date somebody, like, I'll need to be bending on what I want, the specifics of what I want. I'm not going to get what I want, basically, because I'm vegan. So that's limiting belief. I'm vegan, so now my dating pool is even smaller than it already was. And that limiting belief was being reflected to me, by people close to me. But I still, I was being told, well, you're going to have to bend on your, like, you won't be able to get everything you want. Like, that's too much to ask. And I said, well, I don't need a huge pool of people. I just need one person. This was the way that I was thinking about it. I don't need a huge dating pool. Like, that's irrelevant. Like, it's irrelevant how many, I don't need a bunch of choices. Personally, I don't need a bunch of different options. Like, I just need one that fits the bill. Like, I just need one that fits the bill. That's it. And like I said, I've already made a video about how I manifested my SP out of thin air, but vegan is one of the qualities on my list that I wrote down, and he fits pretty much everything on the list except eye color, like I said. So you just decide what you want. Like, the limiting belief was that I would not be able to find somebody, first of all, because I'm vegan, like, that it's a limiting belief that it might repel certain people. And then on top of that, it's a limiting belief that I would even be able to find somebody who was also vegan. And I just sort of didn't really acknowledge, like, obviously everyone's being pushed out, so they're reflecting my limiting beliefs and fears back to me, but I didn't accept that to be true. And I knew that I could find one. I didn't need a huge pool of people. I just was like, okay, well, I don't need 10 options. I just need one person that fits everything that I want, So I just, decided what I wanted, and he showed up. So anyways, back to limiting beliefs. if you've got a limiting belief, regardless of what the topic is, it doesn't need to be about dating or finding an SP, but if there's something that you're trying to manifest or something you're trying to create in your life and you're having issues doing that, try to look at what the limiting beliefs might be. People might reflect them back to you. It might be quite obvious to you what your limiting beliefs are, but try to pick them out and realize that they're malleable and you can change them. So they might appear to be true in your reality right now because if it's a belief, so you've got it ingrained that you're might see evidence of that in your reality. But again, manifesting, you have to throw logic out the window. You're not going to see evidence at the start, but once you start persisting in a new assumption, it will harden into fact and you will see it in your reality eventually if you persist and just ignore any old fears, thoughts, limiting beliefs coming up. Like, you just flip those negative thoughts or limiting beliefs as they come up, depending on what you're trying to create. But yeah, so you want to pick out what your limiting beliefs are and flip them. So another few examples of limiting beliefs: all men are trash. You've heard that before, right? That's just not true. If you keep repeating all men are trash and like you see evidence in your reality that men are trash and you keep repeating that to people and to yourself, men are trash, you are going to keep getting that reflected back in your reality. And, you know, I'm going to make another Harry Potter reference here pretty soon, so hopefully you don't mind the Harry Potter references, but I finished the last movie the other night, and at the very end, I don't know if you maybe you already know what I'm going to say, but it really seems like a nod to thoughts create your reality, and I will say the quote soon. But anyways, if you're constantly saying all men are trash, you're going to see evidence of that. So until you quit saying that, like if you're not in a relationship and you want a relationship but you think all men are trash, that's limiting belief. It's holding you back from being in a relationship, because why would you want to be in a relationship? Like, this is assuming you're straight. Like, it could go the same for females too. You could be like, oh, women only want one thing, or like whatever sex you're attracted to, or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're transgender, it doesn't matter if you're non-binary, it doesn't matter. But if you have you're lumping one group of people into this one phrase, that's a limiting belief, because it's not true. You can't lump everybody into a certain phrase. It's just not the case. It's not true. You want to change your beliefs so that they benefit you and so that they move you up and forward. Another limiting belief would be if you've got a negative pattern in your life, doesn't matter what it is, and you're constantly saying, why does this always happen to me? Why does this always happen to me? That's a victim mindset. Why does this always happen to me? Why is this happening to me again? Why does this keep happening to me? You're perpetuating that into your reality again and again by refocusing on it and complaining about it. And you're coming from that state of consciousness, that state of being, as being a victim. You're not a victim, you're a creator. So as soon as you break that pattern of thought, like if you look back on your life and you like think of your previous patterns of thinking and look around at your 3D reality, you will make a connection between those two things. So if you've got things that you want to change in your 3D reality or things you don't like, I can guarantee that you've got limiting beliefs around those subjects. So you just need to pick out what those limiting beliefs are and switch them to a belief that serves you, right? So all of these limiting beliefs are putting power outside of you. They're saying that things outside of you that are beyond your control. Why does this always happening to me? Why does this always happen to me? Why does this keep happening to me? That's any limiting belief. It's putting power outside of yourself. So you really want to be aware of what your limiting beliefs are, and you're the operant power. You control your thoughts. So a belief is just a thought that you continue to think so many times that it's just a belief. So a belief is just a thought. So it's malleable. Okay, so beliefs can be changed by assuming something different. If you have a belief that is limiting you, pick it out and begin to shift your state of being. Remind yourself that you are God, what you say goes, and the only limits are the ones that you put on yourself. So here's my Harry Potter reference. like I said earlier, I was watching the last Harry Potter, so I don't know if it's in the book as well. It must be in the book as well. I'm not sure. And I will say again, J.K. Rowling, she's problematic because she's transphobic. So, and I have said this in a video before, I'm not going to cancel Harry Potter because I really love Harry Potter. So I acknowledge that J.K. Rowling, not great, but this reference to Harry Potter really resonated with me and seemed like a nod to creating your own reality and, thoughts creating reality. So this is in the Deathly Hallows, so the second part of the 7th movie at the end. So Harry Potter has sorry, spoiler alert. Hopefully you've seen Harry Potter, and if not, then you probably don't care about the spoiler alert by now because it's been out for a long time. But if you do care about a spoiler alert, don't watch any more of this video. So Harry Potter has just died. Obviously he comes back to life, but he has just been killed by Voldemort. And he goes to this, whatever, it's I guess not heaven, but yeah, he's at, heaven, but it's like his version of heaven, which looks like King's Cross. Doesn't matter. He's talking to Dumbledore, and he's talked to Dumbledore a while, and like how he's like, oh, should I go back? Can I go back? Blah, blah, blah. What happens if I don't go back? Whatever. They've had a conversation. And then at the end of the conversation, Harry Potter says, is this real? Or has this just been happening inside my head? And Dumbledore says, of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. But why on earth should that mean that it isn't real? Consciousness is the only reality. Is that not what they're saying there? And then he goes on to say, Dumbledore goes on to say, words are, in my not so humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. So to me, he's saying, thoughts become things. So I was just listening to a Neville Goddard lecture on YouTube. There's tons of them free, and his voice is so soothing. And, if you're interested in this content, I definitely recommend listening to his lectures and his book. His 10 books are all in one, called The Complete Reader. So highly recommend Neville's work. That is basically what made me understand manifesting a lot better. So anyways, highly recommend his lectures and stuff. But I was listening to one of his lectures, and he said something, I didn't write it down, but along the lines of, it would be stupid to say that you couldn't inflict hurt with your thoughts and with your imagining, because you can. And he does say, always imagine for everyone's highest good. Imagine lovely things for yourself and for everybody in your reality. He doesn't recommend, imagining not good things for people. Obviously, it's good to do the right thing. So this quote by Dumbledore saying, words are capable of inflicting both inflicting injury and remedying it. So that's similar to what Neville is saying. He recommends, visualizing, seeing people in their best state, and, ignoring unlovely things in the world and imagining the best for everybody. But to say that it's possible that you can create unlovely things with your imagination, we've been manifesting our whole lives, regardless of religious beliefs, regardless of whether you're aware of the law or not. I was speaking to my friend Chris about, we usually have deep conversations on these topics, and tonight we were speaking about the law and the way that he described, I've heard the law of gravity compared to the law of assumption before, but the way that he said this, I'm just gonna say it. I don't have the exact quote, but this is basically what he said. If you go on top of a tall building and you jump out the window, you'll hit the ground, right? Kind of disturbing, but that's the law of gravity. It exists whether you believe in it or not. It exists regardless of your religious beliefs. It's impartial. It's impartial regardless of your beliefs. And the law of assumption is the same. So we've been manifesting our whole lives. whether we believe in it or not, whether we are aware of it or not. It's an overarching law that governs all. Like law of gravity. Like if you jump out of a tall building, you're gonna hit the ground. The law of assumption is the same thing. It's a law. It's always working, whether you believe it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you use it to your benefit or not. That's the thing. It's like, it's really interesting to learn about these topics because you can really look back on your past and your past patterns of thinking, and yeah, like I said, like look around at your life or your 3D reality, and you can draw conclusions and see synchronicities between your patterns of thought and your evidence in front of you. So basically the law states if you change your patterns of thought, you'll change your evidence in front of you, because imagining creates reality. And like I said, I highly recommend listening to Neville's Complete Reader, because he's got countless examples of how consciousness creates reality from his own personal experience and from people who have followed his teachings and practiced it and sent in their experiences, and it's very inspiring. But yeah, like if you're ever having a limiting belief that you're unaware or you're unsure about your power, I do recommend testing it on little things. You can try, I'll probably make a video on this at some point, but the climbing a ladder challenge, if you're doubting your power and you really want something to solidify it, you can do that one. It's super easy and super, like, I doubt anybody has resistance to climbing a ladder, or, you can test your power on little tiny things along the way, and you'll see evidence of the synchronicities between whatever you're focusing on here will be reflected out into your reality. So that's all I have on limiting beliefs today. If you like the video, please click the thumbs up, please hit subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.